Alright, so just finished up week 2, hard to believe, Friday. And this is web design. We talked about the outline. You need to be working on that on a regular basis. Talked a little bit about assignments and web server accounts. You got your work server, actually we call it work server number 2. And you have your addressing for that, and we'll talk some more about that here as we go along. So in the course we talked today, on Friday we talked about the information communications technology review, files and folders directory, access to the cloud, web server work. We did a little more HTML, and we used the Mozilla Development Network, where Firefox comes from, to work on that. And you could use any resource for HTML. And we're going to continue that more next week. A couple pieces of general information. Still looking for, we've got a couple people interested, but we haven't filled a academic IT position yet. There is also the availability of working web design on the portal. They're meeting Thursdays, 11 to 12. So if you're interested, you can let me know. You really need to do that ASAP, beginning of the week. And then Tech Club. If you want to participate, drop me a note. We'll let you know times we meet and so forth. We do some cyber defense. We have some tech dens where we do interesting things dealing with technology. We might even consider some esports down the road. Again, since this relates to the class we're in, web design, a portal is like an intranet, in which it works like the internet. It looks like browsers and the internet, but you're really just communicating within servers internally. Here we're talking about how we access the internet from the classroom. Okay, so we have a couple different things we talk about here. From our area, we have fiber that connects out, and then there's fiber that goes out to the Iowa Communications Network, which is our internet service provider. If we were to look here, we have the main campus. And then over here we have the academic IT area. Okay? I call it that so you don't confuse it with the college IT. In here we have a firewall. Firewall blocks information coming in, but if you from a PC communicate through and go to the internet, it then creates a path for that traffic to come back in through the firewall. And in here then we have our PCs that connect out. Now, we worked on then, we have a PC that acts as a web server, and it's on the DMZ. So maybe I'll draw that like this. So the firewall allows you to come through the DMZ and communicate with this Apache web server. It's Linux running Fedora, and it is work server 2. So you can imagine we have a work server 1, and we are working on a work server 3 that we're going to transition over to during the year. Now, the internal addressing that we were using to go from our PCs internally, I'll just draw a blue line here, internally to get from here to here, we use this internal, what they call private address. And using that, that's a private address, we are able to communicate to the server. Now, was it hard to set up this server? Not really. Apache, Linux, Fedora, all of all of that software is open source, and the box, the PC it's running on, is not a high-end PC, so that wouldn't be real expensive either. So what we started out doing was we opened up our sites here, and then we used WinSCP secure copy. That's what that stands for, Windows Secure Copy, and that allowed us to look at our local computer and look at this Linux box, and then we could work with the files on the Linux box. We could add directories, edit files, etc., etc., which then automatically updated our web page. Okay? Now, another way to approach that is you could create your web page on your PC, whether here or maybe at home, and then you could upload it to the web server, whether you're uploading it from home or right here in class. You could literally copy it from this spot over to this spot. You can just drag it across. That term would be you're going to publish your website. You're going to make it available to the world. One last thing on this page that's important. I mentioned this is a private address. This address we use when we're in the classroom to access the server. This address is a public address that matches up with this address, and this is what you would have to use coming in via the internet. So if you were going to access the server from home, in order to get to it, you'd have to use this address from home. Also pointing at that address is dirkseneducation.com, and that would be a domain name. Services would convert this to this address and then take you into the web server here on campus. So we're going to review that on Friday. Finish up today. I used an example. Tom Goldman made that up. We talked about the password here. That's the password to get into the work server 2. So you'd have to use that public address that I listed, and WinSCP, and then remember it's your last name and first initial, and those two have to be caps. Linux, which we're working on here, Linux is case sensitive. You have to be concerned about the case. Last thing, I went through, and what a nice job everybody did on change. Talking about change, talking about how hard it is, how it affects our core values, the identity, and we also talked a little bit about learning. Learning, your brains, all our brains basically do the same thing in order to remember things or to learn it. It's just as some of us approach it in different ways. What I think you need to be open to is not saying you only learn one way. There's lots of different ways to gather information and interpret it in your brain, your cognitive ability, your ability to learn. So the key thing in all of this right here is to be open to other ideas and not thinking there's only one way you learn or one way you do anything, which would then allow us to see the bigger picture. So we talked about change. Our next step in this is grit. That'll be coming up. There's a couple videos. There's a video me talking about change, and then there is the grit video, which is Angela Duckworth talking about the concept of grit, growth mindset, a couple key things out of this. Change video, approximately 10 minutes. Grit video, it's less than 7. We'll say approximately 7 minutes. And then you'll have a little bit of time involved with typing up your discussion questions. So the whole assignment probably won't take you over 20 to 30 minutes. So you'll need to look in Canvas where that comes due. Finish up then. Remember, you need to be working through the items in Canvas on a regular basis. Each week there's at least one activity plus some other things that need to be completed. That is it. We've got a great start on the term. Thanks, everyone.